how a romance novel saved the galaxy by Ariana Derrote. Chapter 49, Jaster 9. Jaster was intrigued when he was told that Master Coon had requested permission to land in the Hot Mando Ade ship area, asking for an area much larger than he needed for his fighter craft. He sent a comm to Jan asking him to meet him there and headed over. Surely this would be more interesting than the paperwork of running House Mario. His ira was raised when he saw that the ship touching down belonged to Clan Kriz. It seems the Keldor Jedi had gotten the Duke's cooperation. Maybe the missing children were actually somewhere in Sundari or in the surrounding deserts, and his mission was already a success. That seemed to be the case when the Jedi carefully walked down the landing ramp with an absolute herd of Ade. 2 were in his arms with a third on his back, and several clutched at his robes. Older children had other kids' hands in theirs, but they still all kept close to Coon, looking at their surroundings and Jaster's rather dumbfounded Verde mistrustfully. Around Jaster, Boucher were hastily being pulled off since everyone knew that was the most intimidating thing for a new Ade to deal with. Jaster was joined by his commander Volk and Jan as he approached the Jedi and his crowd of kids. Jan sighed faintly as he took in the scene, but otherwise remained silent, barring a nod in Plo's direction. Master Coon, are these the missing children? He realized even as he said it that they couldn't be if Plo was bringing them to him instead of the new Mandalorians. I'm afraid not, Mandalore. These are new Mandalorian children requesting sanctuary with the true Mandalorians. They have it, said Jaster immediately. He smiled at the uncertain-looking kids. All children are welcome. Have you eaten dinner yet? No, said an Attica with brown skin and red hair. Their boldness would serve them well here. Well then, Volk here will get you all to dinner, and we'll get you settled. Many of the Verde approached the kids, some going down on one knee to coax the Ada into heading to dinner. They left in small groups. Plo had managed to get the child off his back and one of the children out of his arms, but one of the Attica in his arms refused to let go. I know, Helia, Plo rumbled in that deep voice of his. I know it is so hard to let go sometimes, but I need to save your friend. You will be all right here, I promise. There was so much sorrow and love in the Keldor statement. The Jedi sure chose correctly when setting a Jedi for this mission. Once they saw Plo Koon in action, none of the Mando Ade would doubt the Jedi love for Ade, which they had been questioning after Jin's actions. Jaster heard Volk next to him second a breath. He did hope that Plo was ready for the admiration of the Mando Ade that was about to come his way, though. The Ad clung to the Jedi for a moment longer before reluctantly being transferred to an enterprising Verde's arms. Jaster elbowed Volk to snap him out of his infatuated staring at Plo Koon. The Twi'lek was married! May we talk somewhere more private, Mandalore? Asked Plo. Of course. The way to Jaster's office was past the dining area, so we headed for the Jedi's quarters instead. Once they reached the courtyard, they bumped into Holdan and Obiga heading to dinner. Master Plo! Obi-Wan. The Jedi bent down and held out his arms for a hug, which Obi-Wan unhesitatingly rushed into. It's good to see you well, young one. You too, Master, said Obiga shyly. I told Django you might help them find Death Watch on Concordia. I hope you don't mind. That was a prescient suggestion of yours, it seems. Sick! That meant that Death Watch definitely had the new Mandalorian kids who were missing. Plo turned to Jaster. Could you call your son to join us? He will need to hear this as well. He turned back to Obiga and asked to be introduced to Holdan while Jaster called Django. He caught the tail end of Plo thanking Holdan for watching over Obi-Wan on Bandamir. Now, since you are heading to dinner, would you mind doing me a favor, young one? This caused Obi-Wan to straighten, obviously pleased to be entrusted with a task. I don't mind, Master. I have brought a great deal of younglings with me, and they are all eating right now. I would appreciate if you could make them feel welcome and answer their questions about the true Mandalorians and adoption. I could do that, Master. Django strode into the courtyard a few seconds after Holdan and Obi-Wan left. They all headed for the courtyard table to sit, Jan at his side. I cannot imagine that you have endeared yourself to the new Mandalorians with this action, said Jan, finally speaking up.
I don't think I have, but I was not going to leave these children to be abused and indoctrinated.
They were what? Said Jaster in as calm a voice as he could manage while seething with rage. Django's face was fixed in a snarl. Plo's description of the school and what was happening there was awful from start to finish. What those poor Ade had been put through, and then the abuse for being different, it made Jaster want to grab his verde, march into Sindari, and cut down that smug Mandalorian council and any of those Darmanda who were hurting children. Wait. Asik! Hold on, he said and contacted Vogue. The Twi'lek hadn't expressed any interest in the position, but he really should promote him to his second in command at this point. Hello? Ground any of the Verde. He didn't need them heading to Sindari and murdering these Darmanda who were abusing children. By now, the children would have been talking, and the story spreading. One ship already took off, Mandalore. Isaac! That's what he'd been afraid of! This was going to be a political disaster. We'll get them on the comms and tell them if they kill any of the new Darmanda, I'm going to have to exile them. Unfortunately, some of them might consider it worth it. And let them know, if they do that, they might jeopardize us getting the rest of the Ade out of there. Now that was something that might stop them. He thought over what Plo had just told him. Are any of them good enough to slice droids? Manji loves working on droids, said Vogue. Of course, Mangi was also an 8-foot-tall Wookiee. This was going to be very unbelievable, but Plo said the droid wanted to cooperate. Told them that the droids there are programmed not to talk to or help anyone in armor. If Mangi goes in alone first with no armor and says she's there for routine maintenance, starting with the principal, Lee D. Plo helpfully supplies. Then she might be able to delete or alter that command. The Jedi says Lee D wants to help the kids, but the new Mando programming is superseding that wish. I'll pass that on, Olo. Anything else you want me to tell them? Yes, remind them that some of the parents are victims as well. No doubt the prejudice was keeping the ones who looked different in poor, low-level jobs. And maybe look into older siblings who already graduated from this school. Teenage and adult adoptions were rarer in Mandalorian society, but there was nothing stopping them from happening. Like, Olo, you were saying, said Jaster to Plo.
Faye and Duke Kriz are investigating the disappearances from the upper levels of the city as we speak, but the Force and logic are leading me to Concordia. I would like to collaborate with you and Django to determine which areas of the moon have already been searched. I'll head back to Sindari, drop off the Duke's ship, then Faye and I will go to Concordia to continue the search.
Up until now, they had been waiting on the Jedi Council's permission for Yon and his knights to join the search on Concordia, but Yon had privately told him that he'd have better luck with Plo and Faye, since they were strong telepaths. It seems the Kara agreed with him.
The Duke was quite enraged when I told him about the state of the Harmony School. He will probably be contacting you soon about options, but he told me that to hit them where it hurts, you have to understand the way they think. As a result, he is called the Clan Kriz lawyer and asked them to draw up a suit against the new Mandalorians.
Jaster couldn't help his grin. That probably would be worse than simply beating the Azek out of those abusive Shabur. They cared more about credits than family and elite. I'll contact him and see if the true Mandalorians can get in on that action. He promised. In the meantime, Django can show you where we are in our search on Concordia, and I'm going to send out a call to the clans. As soon as you find their location, you'll have my Verde behind you. Many who wouldn't have answered the call just for Death Watch would answer to say that, eh? I will contact the council and let them know these developments, said Jan. How would a core worlder politician phrase it? I'd like to formally request that this become a joint mission between the true Mandalorians and the Jedi Order. Jan nodded. I will pass on your request, Mandalore.